very mindful that the battle President Calderon is fighting inside of Mexico is not just his battle, it's also ours.
Today, the United States is rampaged by violent deaths and economic burdens. How would you deal with residing in an unofficial war zone where your family is threatened by invaders that are determined to distribute harmful drugs? E-legalization of marijuana in the United States causes these economic, social, and political predicaments on a daily basis by initiating an expansive black market for marijuana that is dominated by the insubordinate Mexican drug cartels. There is an insatiable demand for marijuana and other drugs in the United States, and Mexican drug cartels have the supply. In the 1800s, the temperance movement that led to the prohibition of alcohol caused an immense amount of violence, economic decline, and the creation of an expansive and profitable black market. However, these issues ended when the act was repealed, relating to how the legalization of marijuana could resolve the identical issues between the United States and Mexico. For decades, Mexican drug cartels have been distributing marijuana and other illegal substances within Mexico and the United States. However, the business has recently become more violent in both countries. The Mexican government is slowly becoming corrupt because of the ongoing war between two major drug gangs, not to mention the involvement of U.S. border patrols and other defensive forces. The drug war is stimulated by two major traffickers, the Gulf and Zeta cartels, who have split into multiple groups and are stationed all around Mexico. The two cartels constantly oppose each other and combat the government, the military, the U.S. Border Patrol, and even innocent people who misfortunately become involved. American tourists are reluctant to even travel to Mexico because of the unsafe conditions that are constantly being reported. In the past year, over 8,000 people have been killed. Government officials are assassinated for attempting to share information with the public. Soldiers are shot for trying to protect the country, and Mexican and American journalists are murdered for writing articles on the severity of the situation. Entire towns have fled after being ambushed by drug gangs. The cartels are out of control, and the Mexican government does not have the money, let alone the resources, to stop the violence and illegal distribution, despite their constant effort.
The United States shares a mutual lack of revenue and resources with Mexico, necessary to end the drug war. The drug war is not just the battle within Mexico, but also the United States. Drug traffickers have established underground routes and are even using catapults to fling drugs across the border. The Border Patrol is not strong enough to defend our country, and for the cartels, it is an effortless task to enter the U.S. The reason so many Mexican drug traffickers are crossing the border is the high demand for marijuana and other drugs within our nation. The United States, with an enormous population and excessive drug demand, is the largest consumer of the illegal products handled by the cartels and the largest supplier of weaponry.
We attend all of these hearings on the Hill and meet with all of these members of Congress and hear from them that they have that same concern. What are we going to do with Mexico? It's all Mexico's problems. 80% of the drugs that come into the United States are coming in from Mexico. And my only response to that is 100% of the drugs that are coming into this country come into this country. It's our responsibility, and it's our government's responsibility, to protect our borders.
The temperance movement commenced in 1789 and was the very beginning of United States drug policy. Temperance was supported by multiple religious groups in the United States as an attempt to encourage others to abstain from the consumption of alcohol. According to the American History Organization, the movement's ranks were mostly filled by women who had endured the effects of drinking by many of their husbands, including domestic violence. The Women's Christian Temperance Union was established in Ohio in 1874, and its goal was to legally prohibit alcohol consumption for fear of their families and even their country. Women within the organization paraded saloons, once even entering a saloon and smashing liquor bottles. Other supporters of the temperance movement objected to alcohol's destructive effects on individuals, communities, and the nation as a whole.
In the early 20th century, drinking was again on the rise. To combat this, a number of societies were organized as part of the revived temperance movement. By 1916, over half of the American states already had statutes that prohibited alcohol. In 1919, the 18th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution was ratified. Prohibition caused a great deal of social unrest and instability. Alcohol abuse became more prevalent, especially amongst men with families. This in line increased domestic violence and crimes while intoxicated. Homicide rates increased from 4.5 to 10 homicides per 100,000 people. Incarcerations also increased, filling prisons beyond their capacity. Even the Women's Christian Temperance Union supported repealing Prohibition at this point. The Great Depression also sparked more controversy in the matter, as people needed jobs and alcohol was profitable.
Conflicts arose between many groups and individuals because participants of an illegal trade cannot settle disputes through the use of a systematic legal or judicial system. Therefore, violence was a popular method of solving them. The mafia became as wealthy and influential as they were because of the monopolization of an illegal industry with high demand from the majority population that can no longer rely on public legal sources for alcohol. The mafia used violence and extortion to smuggle and distribute alcohol, one of the easiest ways to make money during this time period, especially in urbanized areas. The most infamous mafia group was the Capones, led by the legendary gangster Al Capone. With such an expansive black market taking root in American economics, the destruction of an industry, and other factors, the economy took a turn for the worse.
The laws were having absolutely no effect on people's behavior. People were still continuing to drink, but it was covert and it was more expensive, and it allowed organized crime to have a monopoly on it. And Albert Einstein noted that it had a terrible effect, a corrosive effect on respect for government and the law in general.
Prior to Prohibition, alcohol use was diminishing. However, during Prohibition, alcohol abuse proliferated. The general population pushed for Prohibition to end the precise issues that it magnified, so it was logically repealed. Statistics show that the economic and social issues associated with Prohibition rapidly decreased after it was repealed, which was done so with the 21st Amendment in 1933. Legalizing and regulating marijuana proves to be a valid solution to the drug war today, with a high chance of success. The foremost piece of evidence that elucidates legalization's potential is the parallel between alcohol prohibition in the 1920s and 30s and marijuana prohibition today, such as between the mafia and the Mexican drug cartels. Both criminal organizations were and are ruthless in their effort to amass money. Homicide rates during the Prohibition era increased dramatically, while today we face nearly 6,000 deaths a year from the drug war. When the 18th Amendment was repealed and alcohol prohibition ended, the mafia was propelled into alternative, less violent markets. Homicide rates receded to their previous level, and alcohol developed into the $188 billion a year industry that it is today, which was desperately needed in the Great Depression. This is similar to how economists believe that marijuana's legalization would jumpstart our economy with the creation of new jobs.
Society has been able to withstand legal alcohol, and so I think that's the best example, the best proof we have that we could have legal marijuana in this country and still have a safe, just, orderly society.
Another way in which marijuana's legalization could eradicate the drug cartels is in the decreased demand for other drugs. Marijuana is already a significant portion of the drug cartels' business, and the demand for other drugs within the United States would be replaced with demand for the legal and safer alternative, marijuana. This prediction is supported with objective research from RAND Corporation, relied on by governmental agencies, as well as foreign countries like Portugal that have had success in decreasing drug demand through decriminalization. With the decreased demand for other drugs, drug cartels will not have the money and power that they currently do, and therefore could not fund trafficking the drugs across the border without prosecution.
According to the Office of National Drug Control Policy, approximately 60% of cartel profits come from the marijuana trade alone. And if that were to be cut out, I think that we would see a significant interruption in the operation of the cartels and an immediate reduction in the violence.
Marijuana's legalization would also generate mass revenue. The American prison system costs the government $8 to $10 billion annually from drug policy, and is still insufficiently funded. Legalizing marijuana would automatically generate that $10 billion every year. When you add the median estimate of $20 billion in excise tax money for marijuana, this is a lot of money that can be put towards the more immediate response to drug cartels, border patrols. Budgeting for Homeland Security was less than $6 billion in the 2010 budget, and cuts are still being considered.
In conclusion, the drug war is an urgent issue that is inadequately recognized by the American government. The war has caused tens of thousands of serious casualties, and even worse, on American soil. Legalizing marijuana would destroy Mexican drug cartels by providing reliable sources for marijuana, decreasing demand for other drugs, and creating a source of funding for border patrols. Marijuana overdose has never been recorded to kill anyone, but marijuana prohibition certainly has.
Drinks on me, I don't even have the money to spend to buy Patron for you and all your friends. Baby, I be on my grind, rain, sleet, snow, rolling up good every place we go, cause we try and get high.